You'd think being born as a white tiger would feel like winning. Out of thousands, you're the one people remember. White fur, blue eyes. You don't even look real. And that's the problem. Because in nature, animals usually survive by disappearing. But you look like something that should never be there. And somehow, the rarer white tigers became, the more people wanted them. Which sounds harmless until you realize something disturbing. For a lot of white tigers, their life doesn't become difficult after birth. It becomes difficult because they were born at all. And once you see what happened next, the white fur stops looking beautiful. White tigers feel impossible, not rare, impossible. Like someone took a normal tiger and erased the color. White, blue eyes, too clean, too noticeable, too dramatic, like nature accidentally made something for humans instead of the wild. But that's the strange part. Nature almost never works like that. In nature, standing out is dangerous. Bright things get noticed. Notice gets attention. Attention becomes problems. So when a white tiger appears, it doesn't feel like a reward. It feels like an exception. And exceptions are weird, because nature doesn't repeat them very often. One appears, years pass, maybe another. That's usually enough. Nature isn't trying to fill forests with white tigers. It never was. Which creates an uncomfortable question. If something this unusual appears so rarely, why do so many people think they've seen one? And once that question enters your head, the whole story starts feeling wrong. Because if nature wasn't making enough, then something else had to happen. You'd expect something this rare to be treated carefully, protected, left alone. But rare things do something strange to people. People don't like waiting for them. And once enough, people decide they want more of something. Waiting starts feeling unacceptable. So instead of asking, when will another white tiger appear? People started asking, how do we increase the chances? That sounds harmless, until you think about what that actually means, because nature creates rarity by keeping possibilities wide. Millions of outcomes, millions of combinations, but increasing the odds means doing the opposite. Reducing, selecting, repeating, making the circle smaller, again and again and again, until white becomes less surprising. And that's the disturbing part. Nothing dramatic happened. No secret laboratory, no giant machine, no impossible science. Just decisions, small decisions, repeated enough times that something incredibly unusual stopped feeling unusual. More white tigers appeared, more photos, more crowds, and from the outside, it looked beautiful, like nature suddenly changed its mind. But nature didn't change. People changed the odds, and once you start trying to make rare things appear more often, something else quietly starts appearing too. Not immediately, not obviously, not in the photos, but it's there. And that's when this story stops feeling magical. People imagine rarity in a very specific way. They imagine perfection. One impossible animal, perfect white fur, perfect blue eyes, perfect symmetry. Like nature spent extra time making something special. But rarity doesn't actually mean perfect. It just means unusual. And unusual can look a lot of different ways. That's the part people forget. Because pictures are selective, posters are selective, memories are selective. You remember the impossible one. You never remember everything around it. And when people start trying to make rare things happen more often, something strange starts happening. You stop getting miracles. You start getting attempts. Most people never think about that. Because attempts don't end up on signs. Attempts don't become attractions. Attempts disappear. So from the outside, everything still looks beautiful. White tiger, blue eyes, crowds, success. But hidden underneath that image, there's something uncomfortable. Because the more specific the outcome becomes, the less room there is for everything else. And eventually, you start noticing something. Not every tiger arrives looking impossible. Some look different. Some develop differently. Some never become what people expected, and suddenly, the story feels wrong. Because this isn't a brutal accident happening somewhere deep in the wild. This is happening while people are trying to create something beautiful. That's what makes it hard to look away from. The pictures only show the result. They never show the process, and the tiger standing in front of the camera might not be the whole story. which should already feel uncomfortable. But somehow, it still gets worse, because even if you are healthy, even if you survive, even if you become exactly what everyone wanted, you still haven't escaped. Let's say you made it. You're healthy, strong, no problems. You become exactly what everyone wanted, a perfect white tiger. That should be the happy ending, except white tigers are still tigers. And tigers survive in a very specific way. They don't chase, they don't outrun, they disappear. A tiger wins by becoming invisible. Orange, black, shadow, grass, movement, then suddenly, teeth. That's the system. That's what millions of years built. And then imagine showing up completely white. Not in snow, not in ice, in forests, in heat, in places built for hiding. You stop looking like a predator. You start looking like a mistake. Picture this. Everything goes quiet. You lower your body. You move slowly, closer, closer. One perfect attack. Then a deer lifts its head. Not because it heard you, not because it smelled you, it saw you from far away, one flash of white, and the moment breaks again and again and again. That's the part nobody thinks about. Your beauty only works when someone wants to look at you. Nature doesn't. Nature rewards things that disappear. And suddenly, the thing people cross the world to admire becomes the exact reason you keep failing, which means something horrifying. If you were born normal, you might have had a better chance, but if you're born white, you become unforgettable, and in the wild, being unforgettable can kill you. But there's still one problem. Most white tigers never even get the chance to find out. Here's the strange part. A lot of white tigers don't fail in the wild because they never reach the wild. Imagine being born as one of the rarest looking animals on Earth, and before you even understand what you are, someone already knows what you'll become. Not a hunter, not a territory owner, not a ghost moving through forests. An attraction. People show up, they point, take photos. Children press their hands against glass. Adults whisper, "Look how beautiful. Look how rare. Look at the eyes." And none of that sounds cruel. That's what makes it unsettling. Because nobody walks into places like this thinking, "I want to see an animal lose its life." They think, "I want to see something incredible." And maybe that's the weirdest part. Sometimes nothing dramatic happens. Nobody chases you, nobody hurts you, nobody even raises their voice. You're fed, protected, observed, and slowly, without anyone noticing, your world becomes smaller. No territory, no stalking, no choosing where to go, no disappearing, just routines, walls, people, days that all look exactly the same. And eventually, something strange happens. You stop being a tiger people are looking at. You become the reason they came. That sounds similar. It isn't. One is an animal. The other is a role. And the worst part, if people think your value comes from being rare, then freedom starts feeling expensive. Which creates a horrible question. If being special is the reason you're protected, is it also the reason you never get to live? And that's where this story stops being about survival. Because the final problem isn't whether a white tiger can survive, it's whether it ever got to be a tiger at all. At this point, you'd think the solution is obvious. If life behind glass isn't a real life, then let them go. Open the gate. Back to the forest. Back to being tigers. Simple. Except, this is where the story becomes unfair in a completely different way. Because normal tigers disappear. That's what they're supposed to do. They vanish into distance, into trees, into places people can't reach. White tigers don't do that. People notice them. People remember them. People follow them. And suddenly, being rare becomes its own cage. Too recognizable. Too valuable. Too unusual. Too difficult to treat like every other tiger. And the really strange part, none of those things sound dangerous until you realize what they add up to. Imagine your entire life changing because of something you never chose. Not because you were weaker, not because you were injured, not because you failed, but because you looked different. Imagine every path closing, not out of cruelty, but because people decided your existence was too special to risk, too special to disappear, too special to lose, too special to let go. And eventually, you realize something that feels backwards. If you had been born ordinary, You might have had a chance to live an ordinary tiger life, hunt, hide, own territory, become invisible. Instead, you became unforgettable. And being unforgettable sounds beautiful until you realize what freedom actually requires. Freedom requires being allowed to disappear. And maybe that's the cruel joke. The thing that made the whole world stop and look may also be the reason you never got to leave. So now the question isn't, would you want to be born a white tiger? The question is, if you knew the price, would you still choose to be seen? So maybe the tragedy of being born a white tiger was never survival. Not really, because nature was never fair. Animals lose. Animals disappear. That part was always true. The strange part is that your biggest problem might have started the moment people thought you were beautiful. The white fur, the blue eyes, the thing that made people stop and stare. Because if you had been born ordinary, maybe nobody would have remembered you. But maybe you would have been allowed to disappear into the trees, to fail, to hunt, to become just another tiger. And maybe that's the part that feels wrong. Everyone wanted to see the white tiger. Very few people ever stopped to ask whether the white tiger wanted to be seen. And maybe that was the price of becoming unforgettable. If there's one strange thing this story leaves behind, it's that sometimes the things we admire the most aren't always the things living the best lives. And if stories like this make you see the natural world a little differently, consider subscribing. There are a lot more creatures out there that look incredible until you realize what it actually costs to be them.